Okay, let's see, and we are live. Welcome everybody. Today is November 17th. Today I am here with Shontelle Brewster, who is a LMFTA, and she has her own practice, and she was invited today because we have such an important topic to discuss today. So I welcome you. Thank you for joining us here today. Are you excited to talk about this today?
Yes, I am. This is one of my favorite topics. Thank you so much for having me on your show, on your live. And, we're going to talk a little bit about the stigma surrounding mental health and, Caribbean diaspora, especially here in America.
Yes, yes. It's such an important topic, and it's heavy. For Hispanic Heritage Month, I actually
Yeah.
went and discussed about Puerto Rican Americans and the
Mm-hmm.
stigma on
Mm,
mental health as well. So, but it happens with just Caribbean immigrants, families. Even if you live in the U.S., there's such this, and just American society too. Like,
yeah.
depending culturally, it's really the stigma. And I don't know if people have been watching my campaigns of redefining therapy and what it is.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not all about chronic illnesses. It's deeper than that, right?
Absolutely, yes.
And just with the excuse my dog, and especially with like COVID, and I think more so when COVID happened, you can tell that there was more people willing to say, all right, let me do something about myself.
Yeah, I agree. There's been a rise, like people are really honing in on taking care of their mental health. I think because of the stillness during the pandemic, everything started to come like full circle, like, oh my gosh, I thought that this wasn't a thing. Why am I thinking about this particular time when let's say for me, for example, migrated here and those challenges that I experienced, and you're like, well, this was like 20 years ago. Why is this still a thing?
Right, exactly, exactly. So, in particular, today we're going to talk about Caribbean immigrants. So,
Mhm.
if you could start off a little bit, introducing yourself, your practice, and then we kind of go from there.
Sure. So I am Shontelle Brewster, licensed marriage and family therapist associate. I have a private practice called Love and Light Wellness Therapy, and it is hybrid, both online and in person, located in Manchester, Connecticut. Um, I do couples, relationships, and I also see individuals. In terms of with couples, bridging the gap with communication, stress related to things going on in the relationship, just trying to help couples, navigate those issues. And with individuals, I do see clients with depression, anxiety, and one of the biggest population for me within my practice is seeing individuals, first, second Caribbean immigrants,
Hmm.
and also those whose family members are like grandparents are from the Caribbean country.
Hmm. Nice, nice, and that's such a niche too, because I know, like, especially like with Caribbean families, like they want somebody that can relate to them and know
Yeah.
what they may have been through, or just feel
Hmm.
comfortable. Um,
Yeah,
so can you talk
absolutely.
can you talk to us a little bit about what that's like, for you, even when they walk in the door, right? Because I know,
Hmm.
like, a lot of times when I have some of my Puerto Rican clients come in, it's just like I just need to make sure it's safe, but it's almost
Yes,
like family walking in at the
yes,
same
yes.
time.
Agreed. So, even in the beginning when they're seeking out a therapist, right? With me sharing about my Caribbean background, it's almost a sense of relief for them because okay, now I can talk to someone who actually understands, where I'm coming from, the things, the struggles, the stigma behind mental health, because as you know, and even in the Caribbean and in Hispanic families, they don't believe in therapy. They don't believe in having a therapist. And essentially, I would say it's because of the narrative that we've been told. Whatever happens in this household needs to stay in this household. And for them, that is a big, a challenge to even share what it is that they're faced with and how to work through those difficult moments. So you can actually see them feel like you can see them feeling more relaxed, knowing like, okay, this is safe for me to share XYZ. This is easier for me to talk about, things, how to navigate living in America, coming from from a Caribbean island, and born and raised here with Caribbean parents, and how it can be difficult for them to relate to grandparents or even their parents,
Right.
being born and raised here and being immersed in the culture here, right?
Right.
Because a lot of times I do see adults, but I do have adults, so like 18 and over, and they're like, my parents don't understand me. They don't get me. They don't get what it means to be an American, right? Because they're so focused on how they were raised back home, and so they try to implement the same structure. And what was done back then does not work now,
Right. Right. And generationally too, like that's so
Yeah,
important to understand, is that the way they used to do things back then is not how it works nowadays.
exactly.
I,
Even
how they
for
used to
me,
get away with some of the things
yeah,
they used to get away
right. Right. Even for me as a parent,
with.
my son is 17.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember distinctly in the beginning when he was younger, like between 5 and 6, I'm like, yeah, I can't raise him the way my mom raised me because it's a different generation, right? And I was able to acknowledge, identify, whatever have you, that how certain ways I was raised back home by my mom wasn't actually what was supposed to be happening. And
Right.
so, it took me some time to really really grasp that understanding, like we're in a different times and the culture is super different.
Yes. Yes. Now you weren't born here, correct?
Mm-mm.
So
Right.
tell where you were born.
Yes. So I was born and raised in Barbados, like sunny, tropical paradise.
Yes, it
And
is.
and I migrated here to the US when like 2 weeks after I turned 17.
Nice, nice.
Mhm.
And for you initially, was it like a culture shock coming here?
Absolutely. It was definitely a culture shock for me, even. Okay, so I came in dead of winter, I came in December,
Oh, the
and
worst time.
yeah, it was horrible.
Mhm.
Getting used to the way people speak,
Mhm.
getting used to the fact that they don't understand my Bajan dialect, and
Mhm.
trying to speak slowly so they could understand me. That was a struggle for me, especially. Then it was the way how the school system operated here was completely different. That was hard. Um, Even just being immersed, just getting used to being a part of the American culture and the way that they do things was really difficult. Even also one of the things that I shared with I was talking to my friend about recently is back then it
Mhm.
wasn't any fast food business. It was more like dinner is being cooked every day,
Right,
right?
right.
Maybe on a Saturday we would eat out, but here it was hard for me to change that process because my family here at the time, they still continue that culture. And
Right.
so me being the newbie, I'm like, I want to try McDonald's. I want to try Popeyes because I was living in New York back then. I want to try Taco Bell. I want to try everything. And it was like, no, I don't think so. So it was definitely a struggle.
Mm. So what was that like? We talk about the mental health portion of things. What was
Hmm.
that like for you? And how did you struggle mentally, if any,
Hmm.
transitioning over to a new culture and a new everything?
Hmm. Mentally, it was very harsh. I felt extremely stressed.
Mhm.
One of the things that I focus on right now in my career is, the immigration stress, right?
Yeah.
A lot of people don't even know what that is. And it's basically like the psychological strain or, like a distress response to challenges of get, challenges of moving into a new culture, a new country, and trying to adopt or adapt that way of living.
Mm-hmm.
So that was really hard for me. And then when I think about like the trauma of it all, sitting with that feeling for at least 2 years, and especially my mom, love her to death, but
Mm-hmm.
kid you not, I cried every day for an entire year. And then she just looked at me and said, "You can stop crying now because you're not going back." you know? And I'm like, I'm struggling here. Like mentally, I miss my friends because at 17, I already had my friend group.
Yeah.
I still had some family members there, but I had a really tight friend group.
Mm-hmm.
And having to leave them behind and then now trying to figure out how I can make new friends, that was hard. Like I didn't want to leave the house.
Mm-hmm.
And I pretty much went into a depressive state. If looking back at it, I can call it that.
Yeah.
And not having the resources or anything to help me through that process was extremely difficult.
Yeah, I can't even imagine. How was
Mm-hmm.
the language? Was there a language barrier for you? Because I know you have a strong accent, but I'm
Mm-hmm.
not, so like Puerto Rico, they do most places take English classes.
Mm-hmm.
Um, is that how it is in Barbados?
So Barbados is English. We're English
Yeah,
speaking
yeah,
island. We just have that dialect.
correct.
Yeah.
Hmm.
And like I said, and even with the certain words, certain spelling of words are different.
Hmm.
So let's say, I'm trying to think of a word that I could explain. It'll come to me, but certain words are spelled differently. And so when I went on to college, I went to college like a year after I moved here,
Hmm.
and it was extremely difficult to make those changes as well.
Yeah. The last live I did, I was when I was talking to my friend Ariel when we are doing the live, one of the struggles for me because Spanish was my first.
Mm-hmm.
So for me, but I was born and raised here.
Mm-hmm.
But I spent a lot of time with my grandmother who's just Spanish
Yes.
speaking. So I had to go through ESL.
Okay.
And I'm bringing this up because we're talking about
Yeah,
the
of course.
Caribbean, you know?
Yes,
So
definitely.
I struggled with English. And so they
Mm-hmm.
put me in ESL, the English as a second language.
Yeah.
And I did that for a couple years. And you talked about trauma. And one of the things that I still remember to this day is like, again, just when they used to do like the nursery rhymes or whatever it is, like
Mm-hmm.
one of those, whatever they call it. But it's like Mary had a little lamb and
Yeah.
all those things that they used to say, Miss Mary Mack, and they're singing it. And in my head, I'm like, are they making fun of me?
Ah, yeah, I could see that.
And for me, it was traumatic when they're just like doing their little dances and I'm not understanding exactly what's going on
Right.
because I've never heard it before.
Right.
So I'm
Mm-hmm.
sitting in a room with other people who are taking the English as a second language class and
Mm-hmm.
I'm kind of traumatized by it. And I
Yeah.
recall that feeling. I don't recall anything else besides that feeling on that day that
Mm-hmm.
happened. Because they, again, when you're learning another language or trying to assimilate,
Absolutely.
infiltrate yourself, it's like I don't think they realize that experience that you feel during that.
Right. Yep, absolutely. That is so true. And so I remember um in the beginning again between age 17 and 19, that was a struggle, right? And so I remember I was in one of my classes in college and the professor asked me a question
Mhm.
and he's asking me the question, I'm responding to the question,
Mhm.
and the class is like, I don't understand her.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so that, I think in that particular moment, I kind of just like lost my voice. Like I'm not speaking up
Mhm.
in my classes, even if I have something to, offer, something that I want to share. I
Mhm.
was pretty much quiet up until maybe I was like 30.
Yeah. Yeah.
Hmm.
It almost mutes you a little bit.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. Like, when I'm home, especially, I speak my Bajan dialect. right?
Mhm.
My kids understand. My son might say some certain words. My
Mhm.
daughter, she makes fun of me, but not in a bad way.
Mhm.
But I'm able, like I speak it, and they're able to understand me, and it's like, well, if they can understand me, why can't people, especially in the past, it doesn't happen now, of course, but, when I first came here, why they don't understand me? So in terms of that, it was just psychologically speaking, it was really, really hard
Yeah.
to get used to it. We think about the social status as well. Just like,
Mhm.
I don't feel like I belong. Like, this isn't my country. How can I immerse myself or assimilate into this culture when it's not even where I'm from?
Right, right. So, how do you navigate through that?
Yes. Well, I will say, first of all, I did go to therapy.
Mhm.
Um, because after the 2-year mark, I noticed, yeah, my mom was not kidding. She's not sending me back.
Mhm.
And so I started to do a lot of research. I like to do research. At the time I had a
Mhm.
computer, so I looked up some like how I could seek help. Like, I couldn't find the words, but I talked about stress, and that was one of the keywords that I input in the computer. And then I saw, oh, therapy. So I
Right.
did go to therapy. My first therapist was a Caucasian female. She did not
Mm.
understand much about the culture, and I guess understandably, I guess rightfully so. She pretty much told me that I was
Right.
abused. Like, she didn't understand the culture,
No,
right?
and how it
And
functions.
so, yeah, and so I talked to her about how I was feeling about, therapy in a whole, like, and she referred me to a African American female who originally was from Trinidad.
Mhm.
And I was able to resolve most of, like, my feelings regarding the new culture, and how to feel more comfortable, how to interact with others.
Mhm.
And that's what really helped me. And talking to my family about mental health, and explain to them, I know you guys are against it, because it was never a thing for us
Mhm.
in the Caribbean. So I just let him know, like, it has helped me. Like, I felt like I was a better person, able to communicate effectively. I was able to understand more that, yes, I'm living in a new country, but it doesn't mean that I can't go back and see, like, my family and my friends.
Right.
Um, Pretty much, trying to get me into seeing things in a positive light, so to say, right?
Mhm.
Navigating the trauma of the immigration trauma that I went through, because it started from before I even migrated here. So it's
Yeah.
the beginning stages of it. So it will be the pre-migration, migration, and then the post. So the pre-migration will be leading up to me leaving. And when I was told that I was going to be migrating to the US, I was told, like, 3 weeks before I left.
Mhm.
But I didn't have
Wow.
much time to, to spend with my friends and get used to, like, mentally prepare myself for what that could look like.
Right.
Now it's a lot easier because we have social media, right?
Mhm.
Everybody can see what America is like. For me back then, I only had cable,
Right.
and it was glamorized, right? That as this, oh my gosh, like, this this thing that's going to get me out of poverty. And
Right.
then you come and you're like, this is it.
Right.
This is not what I saw on TV, right? So that's the difference between then and now.
Mhm.
We see it now. We see what America is for what
Mhm.
it is.
Right.
And the pre-migration and the migration process was the most challenging for me. Mhm.
Mm. Yeah.
And so with that experience, right, with that experience and the knowledge, because I do a lot of research,
Mhm.
and I talked to a lot of people back home, and I could tell you that with the knowledge and the experience I have, I'm able to incorporate that with my clients,
Right.
helping them not only work through their trauma, understanding their family dynamics, especially, family coming from a different culture, and
Mhm.
the difference between the two, and some similarities, and how to navigate, those instances where you feel like your grandparents or your parents aren't able to understand what it's like to be a born American here,
Mhm.
and how to advocate for yourself essentially, because in my culture, again, it's a child should be seen and not heard. And so we
Right.
weren't able to share feelings. What are feelings? No, like that was not a thing for us.
Mhm.
And so I pride myself on explaining and helping my clients understand their feelings,
Mhm.
understanding that their emotions are valid, making the connection with their family of origin and the traditions that they carry, making sense of it and how they see themselves and how they want to be moving forward.
Right. And that's so important. And it's almost like letting them know that you can still carry that on.
Yeah,
It's just, it's also okay to express yourself. It's also
absolutely.
okay to be a human because you have feelings. And a lot of,
Right.
I know, so my husband's Jamaican
Mhm.
and
Oh,
very stonewall. My mother-in-law and stuff that just like, and so
rigid.
yes, very rigid. But loving at the same time, but it's a different type of love that they show,
Absolutely.
right?
Yes, yes.
Um, and so since my husband's been here since he was 16, 17, around that time, that
Mhm.
I think he was able to assimilate a little bit to American culture as well.
Yeah,
But it doesn't mean that that part of you that was living and raised in such a
yeah.
rigid culture, that doesn't go away either.
It really doesn't go away, right? So think about an adult who migrated here like in their 30s, 40s, even 50s.
Mhm,
So their experience is much more traumatic.
mhm,
Now, I have an aunt who had a really good job in back home in Barbados, and she migrated around the same time that I did.
right,
And one of the main reasons that she did that was because my cousin, her daughter, was finishing high school and she wanted her to have a better life, essentially, go off to college, the whole night. So she had to sacrifice her good paying job, her house, everything back home to now, live in a foreign country where
mhm.
she pretty much had to start from scratch.
Ugh,
And
that's
that
hard.
was not easy.
No,
And it
no.
still happens to this day. Every day people are migrating here, even as adults who have well established jobs, like social status, in their respective island, then to come here to be a nobody.
Yeah. Yeah. And again, like you were saying before, like everything seems so glamorized here.
Yeah,
And you realize how hard you have to work when you get to
exactly.
America to get some of what you could have,
Yeah,
already established there.
absolutely. And as cold as it is, as much snow as it is outside, the show don't stop.
Yeah, exactly. No matter. But still gotta get paid.
Exactly. Back home, like if it's pouring, if it's raining like extremely heavily, you have the
Mhm,
opportunity to stay home because like, okay, there might be some flooding, etc. But here, you still have to work. And
mhm,
all of these little things that people might think as, oh, that's nothing, you can get used to that. That's what really adds to the stress, like, interferes with your mental health because essentially it's a new environment. It's a brand new environment that we now have to assimilate into and be a part of. And like pretty much, it almost feels like we are intruding on another culture.
mhm.
Yeah.
It's interesting that you say that.
hmm Yeah,
Yeah.
that's exactly how it feels because it's like for those of us who weren't born here, it's almost like I wasn't born here. Like this isn't mine. Like I can't say this is my country,
Mhm.
right? They really find it hard to get used to that. The culture shock of it all is very
Mhm.
traumatizing.
It is. It
Yeah.
is. So for you, you were able to seek therapy, kind of help your way. How do you feel now? Do you feel like you are part of this country?
Yeah, 100%.
Okay.
And
Okay.
that's because I came here when I was young. So I pretty much have been around well different cultures, but
Mhm.
within America. But I've been able to earn my spot here, right?
Mhm.
I gained my spot here. So I don't feel like I don't belong. I don't feel
Mhm.
like this is foreign to me.
Yeah.
It is what it is at this point. I've been here for over 20 years, so
Yeah. Do you feel like because you sought out therapy so young that it like really helped you get through that trying time?
yeah, 100%. I don't think that if I didn't seek therapy, I would be here. I will be where I'm at today.
Hmm.
Like mentally, emotionally, because again, yes, I could read as much articles, I could read a lot of self-help books,
Hmm.
but essentially having someone there that walked that journey with me and alongside me and providing me with the tools, the coping skills I needed in those times to help me cope
Yeah.
with the way I was feeling about, the transition here. I don't think I would have been able to do that by myself, right? It's only so much self-help books can do for you. And
Right.
I don't even think I've seen any self-help books for those that are migrating to a new country, but it's just thought of an idea, though maybe I can write one.
There you go. There you go. Because that's so true. Self-help books will only get you so much, but I think a bigger part of that is still wanting and feeling like you need to find your community.
Yes, exactly. It's all about community. And I didn't have that before. I had my family, yes,
Right.
but they didn't have the resources that I needed, right? Some of my family had already migrated here years and years ago. So they did whatever they needed to do to cope, which probably is, I got to keep going. I got to keep going because that's pretty much how our culture
Yeah.
was and kind of still is, right? Well, this thing happened. Well, okay, let's keep going. So
Pushing through. Keep pushing through.
yeah, so
Hmm.
they did whatever they needed to do, but they didn't have the resources that I needed to help me cope with this transition. And that's what was especially frustrating because the story that I kept hearing was, well, you're here now, so get used to it.
Hmm.
How do I get used to it?
Right.
What should I do to get used to it, right? And that was never given to me.
Yeah. It's like get over
Hmm.
it because for
Yeah,
them it's always on survival mode. And
exactly.
seemed like even for you at that time, you're like, nah, I'm not trying to operate on survival mode. Like I
Yeah,
really need help emotionally
right.
to know how to get over this hump. And
Exactly. I
as
cannot
far as
work.
you're probably grieving too, because again, you
That's a big thing.
all
Yeah.
your friends, the island that you love, and to come here and you just
Yeah.
kind of lost all of that.
Yes. The grieving I think that was the biggest part for me too. Which, equated to me crying a lot because I was grieving my whole life,
Yeah.
right? And what that entailed, my friends especially, that was like my friends, they were my community. Like
Yeah.
as young as I was, like we really were close. We still are, right?
Hmm.
Thanks
Nice.
to those calling cards back then. And now thanks to WhatsApp,
Right.
and traveling, because after 5 years, I then went back to visit like yearly. I
Hmm.
haven't been back in like 3 years since 2019. I haven't been back, but again, I have WhatsApp and we're in a group, so we still are connected, which is
Nice.
amazing. But you know, at one point, I found myself kind of like shifting
Hmm.
because I'm like, they're back there, like they have each other and I have no one. So as much as I'm sitting here saying, oh, I don't want any friends, I have my friends are back home, they're not here.
Right.
So that was another challenge for me,
Mhm.
to start to build a new community. And then in New York, that was that. And then I moved to Connecticut and it's like, oh God, no, I got to start all over again.
Mhm.
But when I did move to Connecticut, I was 19.
Mhm.
So I already had those tools, right? And I had everything I needed because I was in therapy then to get me through, you know, transitions.
Mhm.
And with life transitions, adults don't like change. So,
Uh-huh. Yeah, yeah. Are
so
there
yeah.
any key points that you would, or even any suggestions? I know that parents tend to be, I think the younger generation is a little bit more like, okay, I need the help, I need the resources, and the older
Hmm.
generation tends to be a little bit more skeptical. What would you say
Hmm.
to the older generation who may have a child that is struggling in this manner?
Hmm.
What would you say kind of comfort them?
What I will say is do your research, right? So there are therapists out there that are of Caribbean descent, or they have Caribbean background, even if they were born here. Like, there are people, like, you have people who can help you. And yes, it's scary. Yes, you don't want people in your business, but this is essentially for your child, and you want your if you want your child to thrive in this setting, then it is important for parents to start to do that work, right? Therapy doesn't mean that you have, you know, like the labels, like the disorders and whatnot. Therapy is more than that. It's to gain some tools, some resources, ways to help you help your child as they navigate this new life, or to help you understand your child in this culture, because the culture is very different. That's what I would say.
Yeah, and I completely agree with that. And I think I would also add, because I used to consult with DCF.
Oh yeah. Mm-hmm.
So for me, at least on that behalf, is understand that the culture is different, and the things you used to be able to do back home,
Can't do it.
you cannot do here,
Cannot.
right? And
Mm-hmm.
so a lot of the times, yeah, it'd be the kind of therapist coming in and saying, "Mira, tú no puedes hacer
Right.
eso. You can't do that.
Right.
This is not home. This
Right.
is America, and things run and function different. And
Absolutely.
you have to learn different ways and different tools. Sometimes for parenting in itself, like, things are not the same. And if you want to stay out of the system, you really have to know what those tools are.
Exactly. I do work with children too, and I do have some families that are, Hispanic and Caribbean background. And, not we, but, back then they believe in corporal punishment. And I tell them all the time, like, that is not okay. It's not you can't do that here. You shouldn't do it, period. But you definitely shouldn't be doing it here, because the rules are different,
Mhm.
right? The laws are different. And I can absolutely guarantee they're not trying to hear, well, this is a cultural thing. They don't want to hear that. You are in another country, right? So, and this is the reality of it. You are
Mhm.
residing in a different country. And so, yes, you can keep your traditions and your cultures, but you have to understand what the culture is like here in America, what are the laws and what the guidelines are, and what you can't, or what you can and can't do. And
Right.
that's just bottom line. You are in someone else's country at this point.
Mhm.
You migrated here, so you're taking on this culture,
Right.
right? So certain things you can't do. So I absolutely agree with you.
Yeah, and reach out to therapists that, again, you do feel comfortable with, because we are more than willing to help, because
And
we understand,
we
right?
understand, yeah.
Because we get it, we understand. It doesn't mean we're going to excuse it. It
Right.
just means we're going to say, all right, time to buckle in, because now we're going to help you to learn something different.
Different. Mm-hmm.
You know,
Absolutely.
you might have to take a step back. You might have to breathe. You might have to take your space. Doesn't mean that, again, you can't discipline your child. It's just
Right.
there's a little different way to go about that, so that
Yes.
way you don't get in trouble. So,
Correct.
we are here to help, because we do have that understanding
Mm-hmm.
of our cultures, and how it is, or how it could be.
So yeah. And that's the narrative I get from a lot of adults. Like, because you understand, right? It's easier to talk about it versus, even versus someone that's not of our culture, who
Mhm,
pretty much look at it. They feel like they're being judged, right? Or they
mhm,
feel like they're judging that particular person's family without understanding the culture, the reasoning behind it, the traditions that they have, which can harm the client more so than
mhm.
anything.
Right, right.
Hmm.
And it's trust. Our
Trust. Yep.
our cultures struggle with trust.
They do. 100%.
I
Because if they
don't know
don't
where that
trust
comes
you,
from, but
yeah,
trust. You can't trust nobody.
right. I hear that all the time. I'm like, oh boy, here we go.
So and again, it's depending where you're from, that trust
Absolutely.
level might
Hmm.
either be really severe where they're like, you can't trust anybody, don't come into my yard, don't whatever it is, but
Absolutely.
or it's like you can trust them a little, whatever it might be, but trust
Yes.
is definitely a big
A
factor.
big thing, yeah, exactly. I will say, in Barbados, especially, I know for sure that people are more open to the idea of therapy. They understand the background behind mental health, you know, which I absolutely love that for them because I know back then for me, it was never a thing. Like we never talk about feelings. Um, when we saw like a vagrant on the street, it was basically, oh, this person is mad, but they don't. There wasn't any explanation to what behind why this person is behaving the way they do.
Mhm.
There's still some unbalanced structure there in Barbados because we only have our island is really small. We only have like one psychiatric hospital, and
Wow.
so ideally, it's like a running, a running thing where okay, I'm going to get you in, get you your medicine, whatever you need. Then you have to go because there's more people coming in. It's very unbalanced.
Yeah, yeah.
Hmm.
And have you ever considered like going back to maybe doing something over
I thought about it.
there? Mhm.
I don't know if I will go back to live, but I would love to somehow connect with some people in the mental health field there and see if I can, add
Mhm.
my services somewhere or the other. But I don't know if I would necessarily live there.
Mhm. Okay. All
And
right.
not because it's not a beautiful island and all that, but I feel like where I'm at right now in life, it would not coincide with that. So who knows?
Yeah, I hear you. I hear you. Okay. Are there any last tips or suggestions or anything that you can give to our viewers?
Yep. Stay open, stay curious, continue to explore like your family dynamics, the culture, how you can, what changes you would like to see made, reaching out to someone that is like you, who
Mhm.
can help you through navigate through those difficulties or challenges. And I'm here if you need me.
Awesome, awesome. And I guess I would also add to that is even if your family is opposed to it and you feel the need or urge to do it, do it.
That's a big one. Yes, absolutely. Don't listen. They can talk all they want to. This is your life because essentially you're the one who's living it. You're the one who's feeling that pain and that hurt and that sadness. So they will get used to it. They will definitely come around.
Yeah, yeah,
Mm.
definitely. And they'll probably see the change in you too, and you
I
might
was thinking
influence
that.
them to
Yeah.
sit there and say, well, maybe I should do it because now they've seen, okay, well, this person's in one piece still.
Yes, yes, yes.
Should be
I
good.
know for me that happened. Like some of my family members
Mm,
decided to do it, get into therapy. So, which was good. I was like, okay, I influenced someone to do something about their life because they need to make some changes.
yeah, exactly. Good, good. So can you remind the viewers again where they can reach you at?
Yes. So my private practice is Love and Light Wellness Therapy. You can um go on my website, www.tellshontelle, which is TELLSHONTELLE.com. That's my website. Or you can reach me via phone, which is 203-441-9232.
Awesome. And then what I'll have Chantel do too is on the comments underneath our video is put her information so you guys can reach out or send referrals to someone that you think could really benefit from her
Mhm.
services. And as a reminder, my name is Marian Francis, LMFT. I am the owner of Mending Hearts LLC. And thank you all for joining us here today.
Thank you.